Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
September 30, 2020, the first VW trial edition. We begin with a story from the New York Times Deal Book of a Silicon-based company called Coinbase, which has said it wants its employees to focus only on work. So there'll be no stakeholder involvement. There'll be no community considerations. Basically, it goes back to, the 1950s or 60s, where it's Milton Friedman on steroids. The problem for Coinbase is no one wants to work at that kind of place, and certainly not millennials, where you're not going to engage with issues. So interesting dichotomy there. Obviously, lots of libertarians in Silicon Valley, but the retrospective dinosaurs may be going that way. Next up, from the Wall Street Journal, JPMorgan is paying $920 million and admitted misconduct tied to the manipulation of precious metals, said the regulators, Treasury regulators. The settlement resolves investigations by the Justice Department, the Commodities Futures Trading Commission, the CFTC, and the SEC. The fine is the largest the CFTC has imposed for spoofing, a type of market manipulation. The agency's announcement confirmed the news of the fine that was first reported last week. The claims include allegations that JPMorgan traders manipulated Treasury securities in 2015 and 2016. JPMorgan agreed to a DPA through which the bank admitted wrongdoing, but suspends prosecution of the bank on 2 counts of wire fraud and requires JPMorgan to cooperate with related investigations and continue to improve its compliance programs. If you are a CFO at Hertz, you are not long for this job, as Hertz has named its second financial chief in as many months. Kenny Chung succeeds Eric Esper, who held the CFO post for a little over a month following the departure of Jameer Jackson, who resigned in August. So obviously Hertz has a huge problem in bankruptcy. It's not really clear if they'll ever get out of bankruptcy, anything close to what they are, what they were worth, or any of those other issues. But it's really stunning that CFOs would you'd really have 3 quit in succession over 2 months. That really speaks to the really fumbled up finances of Hertz and whether they'll be able to get through the bankruptcy or not. And then finally, our lead story, as prosecutors target the ex-Audi chief in the first VW admissions trial. Ever since VW was caught 5 years ago, its senior management has suggested that it was rogue employees, indeed even rogue engineers, who created the admission testing issues of rolling pollution machines. Managers said they were clueless. Well, starting this week, prosecutors in Munich will challenge that assertion. They'll give a presentation of evidence of Rupert Stadler, a former chief executive of Audi, and the trial is the first in Germany stemming from the scandal. Yes, it only took Germany 5 years to get someone to trial, but there's finally taking someone to trial. It's an executive, so we're going to see what German justice may portend for VW exec. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.